The Forgotten Colony. The wind howled across the barren landscape of Epsilon 9, carrying fine particles of rust-colored dust that filtered through the protective domes of the mining colony. Nara Voss stood at the observation window, her calloused hands pressed against the reinforced glass, watching another grueling shift begin. The colony had been a human settlement for nearly 3 decades, originally established as a promising resource extraction outpost. Now, it was little more than a prison, controlled by the Syndron Collective, a ruthless alien consortium that had gradually stripped away every vestige of human autonomy. Nara's fingers traced the intricate repair schematics etched into her environmental suit. At 32, she was the lead engineer for the colony's critical infrastructure, a position that afforded her marginally better treatment than most workers. But marginally better was still a far cry from freedom. The mining tunnels stretched kilometers beneath the planet's surface, a labyrinth of extraction points and processing stations. Humans and a few subjugated alien species worked side by side, their movements monitored by floating surveillance drones and armed Syndron overseers. Supply Line 3 is showing critical stress, Nara muttered to herself, reviewing the diagnostic readings on her wrist computer. The colony's life support systems were held together by her constant innovations and emergency repairs. The Syndron administrators viewed humans as little more than disposable labor, providing minimal maintenance resources. Her workstation was a testament to human ingenuity. Makeshift tools, repurposed components, and jury-rigged systems filled every available space. Where the Syndrons saw inefficiency, Nara saw opportunity. Each broken system was a puzzle waiting to be solved, each limitation a challenge to overcome. The morning shift's alarm blared, a harsh, mechanical sound that signaled the start of another 12-hour work cycle. Workers filed out of their cramped living quarters, moving with the practiced resignation of those who had long since forgotten hope. Nearby, a group of younger workers listened intently as Nara explained a new cooling mechanism she designed for the ore processing units. See how this modified heat sink can reduce energy consumption by 17%, she said, her voice low but intense. It's not just about survival. It's about proving our worth. The Syndron overseer, a towering insectoid creature named Krell, clicked its mandibles in irritation. Human efficiency remains below acceptable parameters, it announced, its translation device rendering the words in a flat, emotionless tone. Continued underperformance will result in resource reallocation. Resource reallocation was a euphemism everyone understood. It meant reduced food rations, increased work hours, or worse, being transferred to the most dangerous mining sections. Nara caught the worried glances of her fellow workers. But beneath the surface of compliance, something was changing. Her constant improvements, her refusal to accept the status quo, were slowly kindling a spark of resistance. As the work cycle progressed, Nara noticed subtle changes. Workers began paying closer attention to her improvised solutions. Whispers of possibility replaced the usual defeated murmurs. Her innovations were more than just technical fixes. They were becoming a form of silent rebellion. During her maintenance rounds, she discovered a critical vulnerability in the Syndron surveillance network. A minor recalibration of the communication relays could create momentary blind spots, just enough time for careful planning. Not yet, she whispered to herself, but soon. The day wore on, a monotonous cycle of extraction, processing, and survival. But for Nara Voss, each moment was another opportunity, another step toward something greater. The Syndrons believed they had broken the human spirit. They were about to learn how wrong they were. As the artificial lights dimmed, signaling the end of the work cycle, Nara allowed herself a small, determined smile. The foundation was being laid. Resistance was taking shape, one repair, one innovation at a time. Epsilon 9 might be a forgotten colony, but it would not remain forgotten for long. Spark of resistance. The maintenance tunnels beneath Epsilon 9's primary processing facility were a network of shadows and forgotten spaces. Here, between the hum of ancient machinery and the distant echoes of work cycles, resistance took root. Nara's latest gathering was small but carefully selected. 3 human workers, Dren, a former security specialist, Lyra, a communication systems expert, and Kai, a young metallurgist, sat alongside 2 alien workers, Zara, a Vortian maintenance worker, and Rix, a displaced technician from the Andromeda sectors. The Syndran surveillance is predictable, Nara explained, projecting a holographic map of the colony's security grid. Her fingers danced across the projection, highlighting weak points. Their monitoring systems have a 2.7-second communication lag during shift transitions. That's our window. Zara's multifaceted eyes flickered with an emotion that might have been hope. As a Vortian, her people had been among the first subjugated by the Syndran collective. "We've tried resistance before," she said, her translator rendering her complex language into measured tones. "It always ends the same way." Dren leaned forward, his scarred hands clenched. "This isn't about a single moment of rebellion. This is about systematic dismantling. We need to hit their infrastructure, their control mechanisms." Nara's latest invention lay on the table between them, a compact device that looked like nothing more than a maintenance tool, but which could interface with and temporarily disable Syndran communication networks. "Knowledge is our first weapon," she said. "They underestimate us. They see humans as replaceable. But every system has vulnerabilities." The plan was intricate, small acts of sabotage, carefully orchestrated to appear like maintenance errors, subtle redirections of resources, exploiting the Syndran's rigid hierarchical thinking against them. Rix, the Andromeda technician, spoke quietly. "My people tried direct confrontation. We were crushed. Humans are different. You adapt. You find ways through." Over the next weeks, their network grew. A worker repositioning a sensor to create a momentary blind spot, another rerouting power conduits to mask communication signals. Each action was microscopic, but collectively they were building something larger. The Syndran administrators began to notice strange inefficiencies. Equipment that should have failed didn't. Communication networks experienced unexplained micro-interruptions. Production quotas remained consistent, but something felt different. Krell, the primary overseer, became increasingly agitated. Its mandibles clicked with increasing frequency, a sign of growing frustration among its species. "Anomalies continue," Krell reported to its superiors during a routine communication burst. "Human workforce demonstrates unexpected resilience. Recommend increased monitoring protocols." But each attempt to tighten control only revealed more vulnerabilities. Nara and her growing network were always one step ahead, turning the Syndran's own systems against them. A critical moment came during a routine resource allocation review. Traditionally, such meetings were perfunctory. The Syndrans would reduce rations, redistribute workers, make examples of those who underperformed. This time, something was different. When Krell began its standard speech about efficiency and resource management, Nara caught Zora's eye. A small signal was exchanged, almost imperceptible. The communication systems flickered, just for a moment, just long enough. Documents were subtly altered. Production reports showed slight but critical discrepancies. Nothing that would immediately trigger alarm, but enough to create doubt. Resistance isn't about a single moment of triumph, Nara would later tell her growing network. It's about 1,000 small victories, about turning their strength into weakness. Epsilon 9 was changing, slowly, deliberately, and the Syndran collective had no idea what was coming. Technological breakthrough. The underground workshop was a sanctuary of innovation, hidden beneath layers of industrial infrastructure and disguised maintenance tunnels. Nara worked tirelessly, surrounded by salvaged components, holographic schematics flickering around her like ethereal blueprints of hope. Her latest project was more than just a tool of resistance. It was a complete reimagining of technological possibility. The Syndran collective had always believed in rigid, centralized control. Nara was about to show them the power of distributed intelligence. "It's not just about breaking their systems," she explained to Dren and Lyra. who watched her work with a mixture of awe and anticipation. It's about creating a network they can't comprehend. The device took shape slowly. At first glance, it looked like nothing more than a standard communication relay. But its internal architecture was revolutionary. An adaptive neural network that could learn, modify, and redirect information in real time. Rix, the Andromeda technician, brought in a critical component, a piece of quantum processing technology salvaged from an old mining probe. "This will give you the processing power you need," he said, his multiple fingers carefully placing the delicate circuitry. The breakthrough came during a seemingly routine maintenance cycle. The Syndran surveillance systems relied on predictable patterns, centralized control, hierarchical information flow, absolute command structures. Nara's device would turn those strengths into vulnerabilities. "We're creating a living network," she explained, her fingers moving with practiced precision. "Each device can communicate, adapt, and redirect. If one is discovered, the others reconfigure automatically." Zara brought in additional cooling systems, her alien technology complementing Nara's human ingenuity. "The Syndrans believe in control," she said, her translator rendering her complex language into crisp English. "We'll show them the power of collaboration." The first test was small but promising. A communication network that could self-heal, redirect, and obfuscate its own signals. Where the Syndran systems were rigid, this network was fluid. Where they were predictable, this was adaptive. During a routine inspection, Krell noticed something unusual. Production reports showed perfect compliance. Too perfect. Communication signals were clean, efficient, but something felt off. Anomaly detected, the overseer reported, its mandibles clicking with increasing agitation. But each time it tried to investigate, the network seemed to slip through its fingers. Nara's team had begun to strategically place the adaptive devices throughout the colony's infrastructure. Each one looked like standard maintenance equipment, each one a potential point of resistance. The breakthrough wasn't just technological, it was philosophical. The Syndran Collective believed in absolute control, in top-down management. Nara was creating something fundamentally different. A network that was alive, that could think, adapt, and resist. "We're not just fighting," she told her growing network of resistance. "We're showing them a different way of existing, of understanding technology, of understanding each other." Small victories began to accumulate. Resource allocations became more flexible. Work cycles showed unexpected efficiencies. The Syndran administrators became increasingly confused, their rigid thinking unable to comprehend the fluid intelligence growing beneath their control. As the artificial lights of Epsilon 9 dimmed, signaling the end of another work cycle, Nara allowed herself a moment of quiet satisfaction. The foundation was complete. The next phase was about to begin. The Syndran Collective thought they understood resistance. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Rebirth and hope. The aftermath of the uprising transformed Epsilon 9 from a prison colony into something entirely unexpected. Where once there had been rigid hierarchies and oppressive control, a new kind of society began to emerge, a collaborative ecosystem that defied everything the Syndran Collective had believed possible. Nara stood at the central command center, which had been redesigned from a place of control to a hub of collective decision-making. The walls were lined with holographic displays showing resource allocation, colony development, and collaborative projects that bridged human and alien expertise. "We're not just rebuilding," she told the assembled council, a diverse group of humans, Vortians, and other former subjugated species. "We're creating a new model of coexistence." The technological innovations that had been their weapons of resistance now became tools of reconstruction. Zara's quantum communication networks were adapted to facilitate unprecedented levels of cooperation. Rix's adaptive technologies helped bridge cultural and biological differences, creating communication systems that could translate not just language, but intent and emotion. Epsilon 9 became a beacon of hope for other colonies. Reports began to spread of a place where humans and aliens worked together, where technology served collective progress rather than oppression. The Syndran Collective's communications intercepted strange messages, tales of a colony that had not just resisted, but fundamentally transformed the very concept of colonial control. Dren, once a security specialist, now led a collaborative defense initiative. Instead of military hierarchy, they developed a dynamic protection network where each member's unique skills contributed to the colony's safety. Early warning systems, adaptive defense mechanisms, and diplomatic outreach replaced the old models of violent containment. "We're not just defending," Dren would explain to visiting delegations. "We're creating a framework of mutual understanding." The colony's infrastructure underwent a complete transformation. Adaptive technologies developed during the resistance became the foundation of a new type of urban design. Buildings that could reconfigure based on community needs. Agricultural systems that worked in harmony with the planet's ecosystem. Energy networks that were as fluid and responsive as the society they supported. Lyra developed communication systems that went beyond simple information exchange. These were platforms of cultural sharing, of mutual learning. Humans learned alien technologies. Aliens gained insights into human creativity. Knowledge became a shared resource, not a weapon of control. During one of the first interspecies council meetings, a visiting diplomat from a distant star system asked Nera about the secret of their success. "We stopped seeing differences as divisions," she replied, her eyes reflecting the holographic displays showing collaborative projects. "We started seeing them as opportunities." The children of the colony represented this new vision most clearly. Born into a society of collaboration, they saw no distinction between human and alien, between technology and culture. They were the first generation of a truly integrated society. As artificial lights mimicked a planetary sunset, Nera watched a group of children, human and alien, working together on a complex botanical project. They moved with a natural synchronicity that would have been impossible under the old Syndran system. Rix approached her, his multiple appendages moving with a grace that spoke of years of refined communication. "We have become more than we were," he said, his translator rendering his complex language into simple, profound words. Nera nodded. The resistance had been about more than just breaking chains. It had been about reimagining possibility. Epsilon 9 was no longer a forgotten colony. It was a promise. A glimpse of what could be when species chose collaboration over control, when technology served life rather than subjugated it. The stars outside seemed to shine a little brighter, witnesses to a revolution not of violence, but of understanding.